You know, back when they announced they were making an Assassin's Creed movie, I remember it being the first time I wondered, wait, do we still actually need these video game movies anymore? I mean, think about it. Back in the day when these were all we had, it was pretty understandable why people would want to see their video game characters actually come to life through mainly movies at the time. Jeez, I still remember the crazy expectation around the Super Mario movie and how me and the rest of my 6-year-old friends thought it was the coolest shit ever that we even had a Super Mario film. And sure, that movie was shit, but you know, 6-year-olds are stupid. But then in 2023, when we have all these amazing video game graphics, Hollywood-level storytelling, dialogue, sound, music, and even voice acting and motion capture, do we still need to adapt these into live-action productions? Well, the very writer of the games, Neil Druckmann himself, and Craig Mazin... Mazin? The dude responsible for HBO's Chernobyl seemed to think so. And if these gentlemen who clearly know what they're doing say so, why would some rando on YouTube say otherwise? So HBO's The Last of Us opens in 1968 with Jonathan from The Mummy talking to Big Head about the possibility of cordyceps, a fungus known to turn ants into zombies, infecting human beings. We then cut to the Millers, Sarah and Joel, a father-daughter family in which she takes care of him more than he takes care of her. And through the first few minutes of the episode, we get to see some nice character building where we get to see how Sarah is a selfless, kind-hearted girl who wants to do something nice for her father's birthday and spends time with their elderly neighbors. She fixes Joel's watch and falls asleep as they watch a movie together. And then bam, helicopters and Joel's not there and the world is ending and the old lady is a zombie even though I'm sure she has been for quite some time now. And then the plane crashes and Joel has to carry Sarah and the fucking Marine follows orders to shoot a kid and then Tommy shoots him in the head as Sarah dies in a great emotional scene and it's 20 years later. In 2023, Joel does anything he can to survive, and we get a quick, effective look at just how fucked up everything is now, with people ruthlessly killing infected kids, bodies burning in the middle of the streets in broad daylight like it is just part of everyday life, and people being executed by hanging on public spaces for the most menial offenses. We then meet Tess, a woman made of rubber who's being held by Robert, a dude with teleportation powers. I mean really, how the fuck did this woman survive this? And unharmed. I mean she has a fucked up face, but she already had it before the blast, and where the fuck did Robert go? How did he manage to vanish so quick after the blast? Anyway, we learned that Joel has been trying to reach Tommy and that the battery Tess and Robert were going on about was for a truck they would use to reach his brother. Tess then explains to Joel what happened to her face in a version of the first dialogue Tess and Joel share in the game. And this scene and the very next one speak volumes on how well these guys know storytelling. They are adapting a video game, but they know this is a different medium. This is television. We're not gonna spend 15 hours actually being this man in this world. Here, we are mere spectators and we need to be able to relate to these people in this world as quickly as possible. Every single scene and every single goddamn line of dialogue is important and they make each one of them count. By giving a simple context to things that are already in the game, they give these characters depth. We don't see what happened to Tess before we meet her. We don't see how Ellie was kept by the Fireflies before she's given to us. We don't see Marlene planning Ellie's transport, and we don't see any kind of dialogue or connection between them. And this is all tied in into the existing story so well that it doesn't even look like they came up with this stuff for the TV series. It's like this is the way it was originally conceived, but we know that's not the case because at this point there are already quite a few details from the plot that are very different from the game. And I really don't care about it because this is working out great. So Tess and Joel find out that Robert is supposed to be trading the battery with the Fireflies, and they go after him only to find out that the deal has gone bad and the fucker couldn't pull his disappearing act this time and got shot in the face by Marlene, who then passes on Joel and Tess the task of taking Ellie to the Fireflies on the State House building on the promise that the Fireflies will give them whatever supplies they need. We then get a few scenes straight from the game and they eventually escape the QZ after finding out Ellie is supposedly infected. Well, and that's it for episode 1. And I gotta tell you, my fellow watcher, as far as adapting the beginning of the game, this is as good as it gets. My purpose here is not to keep drawing comparisons between the game and the show, but to me this improves on the game in every single possible way. Sarah feels like a much deeper character thanks to her additional scenes, and props to Nico Parker for giving life to such a sweet little girl in a way that made her fate so much more terrible. The apocalypse sequence was great. The building of the post-apocalyptic world was awesome, and the introductions of every major character and their motivations were great too. It's like they took the original script for the game and said, alright, how do we make this into a TV series and how do we make this better? Also, they managed to do these scenes that are almost frame by frame what we see in the game, and they do it so seamlessly that they never feel like some obnoxious tacked on fan service bullshit. If there's a way of doing fan service, my fellow watchers, this is it.
This is the way.
Alright, on to episode 2. So this time we follow an Indonesian scientist as she is called in to examine the supposed patient zero of the outbreak and then goes full World Health Organization and completely freaks out after seeing the woman.
Bom, mulailah pengeboman. Bom seluruh kota.
Excuse me, what the fuck?
And when I saw this, I thought to myself, that's a lot of attention to the outbreak itself. I hope they don't give it too much attention and let it overshadow the real story. But if I had to bet on it, I'd say they are probably going to keep giving us these little snippets in the beginning of each episode just for context. At least I hope so. Cut to our characters and Joel and Tess still don't believe Ellie and ask her to show them her arm. And this type of scene has always been a pet peeve of mine. You know, TV shows and movies will often do these passages of time that don't make any sense. You know, people will be in the middle of a crisis and they'll cut to like, I don't know, the next day or something like that. And when we see our characters again, it's like absolutely nothing happened in that meantime. Take this scene for example. The dialogue in this scene was supposed to have happened the minute they knew they were safe. What the hell happened last night? You know, they found out she was supposedly infected, so they just kept walking, they went into this building, they let her fall asleep? Why would they wait until morning to have this conversation with her? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, Joel's like, fuck this girl and miss me with that cure bullshit, but Tess then makes the case that it doesn't matter if Ellie is really immune or not. It only matters what the Fireflies think. The fact that what follows is almost 40 minutes of exposition interlaced with some video game sequences, and I didn't really notice it until the making of this video, just goes to show how great the writing is on this thing. This is some quality dialogue. They then arrive at the museum and Joel picks the perfect time to explain to Ellie that she must not make any noise. Nice timing, man. Perfect time for that. It's not like you had like 2 fucking months to have this conversation. This is the perfect time and place. Anyway, after they leave the museum, Tess is more set on delivering Ellie than ever. And when we get to the State House building and everyone is dead, we learn that she has been infected. The other two quickly despair as Tess says it's over for her and begs Joel to believe in Ellie, and man, it's not only the dialogue but the acting is also fantastic in this. Everything in this scene is on point, and I was so mad when they did this because it took a very nice dramatic scene and sent the whole thing completely over the top. So Tess bids her farewell, which was so great. And next week we have the great Nick Offerman as Bill, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I don't mean to spoil anything for anyone, but the preview heavily suggests big differences from the game in that part of the story. But again, I really don't care. As long as what they do makes sense in the story they're telling, it doesn't matter if they change it. What really matters is that HBO's The Last of Us is doing great.